Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. As you can see right over my shoulder, here is Mr. Casper Leach, our joint host, and just a little farther left is Dr. Thomas Orvald. Welcome back to the show, Tim.
Thank you.
Over in the wings is Mr. John Cornett, ready to play some tuneful soul music. And we have a hemp news segment, several video clips, and we'll be taking your calls about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, and helping medical marijuana patients. So stay tuned as we bring on, as we always do, our infamous dancing cannabis leaves. I feel the force. All right, our first story tonight is from Washington, D.C. The United States Supreme Court has declined to review a lower court ruling which upheld the federal government's classification of cannabis as a Schedule I prohibited substance that lacks medical utility or adequate safety. This past January, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia ruled that the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, had acted properly when it rejected an administrative petition calling for a scientific review of marijuana's safety and therapeutic efficacy. Petitioners had requested a hearing to determine whether existing science contradicts the federal categorization of cannabis as a Schedule I controlled substance that possesses, quote, a high potential for abuse, end quote, no currently accepted medical use in treatment, and a lack of accepted safety for the use of the drug under medical supervision, end quote. It's hard to believe they actually ruled those, given it's all just pure BS. But the D.C. Court of Appeals affirmed the DEA's position that insufficient clinical studies exist to warrant a judicial review of cannabis's federally prohibited status. On Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court denied an appeal to review the decision, rejecting petitioners' arguments that adequate peer-reviewed studies already exist to scientifically contradict the plant's placement in Schedule I, the same classification as heroin and PCP. Several recently published studies and papers directly challenge the DEA's position. For example, a 2012 review of an FDA-approved clinical trial assessing the safety and therapeutic efficacy of cannabis, published in the Open Neurology Journal, concluded, quote, based on evidence currently available, the Schedule I classification of marijuana is not tenable. It is not accurate that cannabis has no medical value, or that information on its safety is lacking, end quote. This case is Americans for Safe Access et al. Versus the Drug Enforcement Administration, case number 13-84 in the United States Supreme Court. Next story is from Austin, Texas. Nearly 6 out of 10 Texas voters support legalizing marijuana and regulating its production and sale in a manner similar to alcohol, according to survey data released this week by Public Policy Polling and commissioned by the Marijuana Policy Project. 58% of respondents said they support changing Texas law to regulate and tax marijuana similarly to alcohol, where stores would be licensed to sell marijuana to adults 21 and older. 38% of voters opposed the idea. Men and women nearly equally supported legalization, with 59% of males and 57% of females endorsing it. Self-identified Democratic voters strongly favored marijuana legalization. Among Democrats, 70% endorsed legalizing cannabis. 57% of independents and 48% of Texas Republicans also expressed support for regulating marijuana like alcohol. In response to separate polling question, 61% of Texas voters said they support decriminalizing minor cannabis possession offenses by replacing existing criminal penalties with civil fines only. 58% of those surveyed also expressed support for allowing physician-recommended use of medical cannabis. This past spring, Texas state lawmakers rejected a pair of bills which sought to lessen minor marijuana possession penalties and allow for certain patients to present an affirmative defense of medical marijuana necessity at trial. 860 randomly selected voters participated in the survey, which has a margin of error of 3.3%. The Texas poll is the latest in a wave of recent statewide surveys showing majority voter support for legalizing cannabis, including state-specific polls in California, Louisiana, Maryland, and Michigan. Our next story is out of London. THC increases brain activity in response to positive stimuli. The administration of THC, the primary psychoactive component in cannabis, modulates emotional processing in healthy volunteers, according to placebo-controlled crossover trial data published by the journal European Neuropsychopharmacology. Investigators from the United Kingdom and the Netherlands performed functional magnetic resonance imaging, or MRIs, on 11 healthy male subjects following the administration of THC or placebo, and assessed the subjects' brain activity during their exposure to stimuli with a negative content or positive content. They hypothesized that THC administration would reduce subjects' negative bias in emotional processing and shift it toward a positive bias. A bias toward negative stimuli had been linked to diagnoses of certain mental illnesses such as depression. As anticipated, the authors reported reduced brain activity after THC administration when the subjects processed stimuli with a negative emotional content. Conversely, the researchers reported increased brain activity following THC administration when the subjects processed stimuli with a positive emotional content. They concluded, quote, "The results indicate that THC administration reduces the negative bias in emotional processing. This adds human evidence to support the hypothesis that endocannabinoid system is involved in the modulation of emotional processing. Our findings also suggest a possible role for the endocannabinoid system in abnormal emotional processing, and may thus be relevant for psychiatric disorders such as major depression." In text. The full text of this study, The Endocannabinoid System and Emotional Processing, a pharmacological MRI study with 9-tetrahydrocannabinol, will appear in the European Neuropsychopharmacology Journal. That's the end of our hemp news segment tonight. You ready to play some music, John?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I tell you,
Well,
I just feel so stimulated by all the discussion. I see a
positively, I hope.
a lot of huge upswing, and anyway, I'm just really happy to be a part of this movement. To end the insanity, and that's what this song is about.
Thank you, sir. Mr. John Cornett.
We are many, we are strong. Can so many be so wrong? Giving in to too many lies. Doesn't anybody really care why? Can it be that we are right? Can we be peaceful through this fight? All we really want to see is humanity set free. We're just one big family, once united, we are free. Now's the time to make a stand, do the best that each one can. Once awakened, we will see potential of infinity, and abundance will be the norm when we are finally through this storm. Can it be that we are right? Can we be peaceful through this fight? All we really want to see is humanity set free. We're just one big family, once united, we are free. time to make a stand. Do the best that each one can. We're just one big family. Once united, we are free. Now's the time to make a stand. Do the best that each one can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. John
We are
Cornett.
many and we are strong. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Well, welcome back to the show, Mr. Casper Leach
Thank you.
and Tim Orvald. We are taking your questions tonight. Dr. Orvald is a doctor who's been helping us here with medical marijuana patients all across the country and has seen tens of thousands of patients over the past decade and helped them obtain medical marijuana permits everywhere from Michigan to Hawaii. Helped us open up in Washington and Colorado and Hawaii and California and several other places. So we'd like to thank you, Dr. Orvald. Thanks for coming on. You had a busy day today and saw a number of patients.
We did have a busy day, Paul, and thank you for the opportunity to reappear on the show.
It's been a while. It's been a couple years since you've been on.
It's been a few
great.
years, you bet. And it's interesting to see how more we are being received in a positive fashion as opposed to in the beginning. Now people flock to our clinics. Today we saw 58 patients. And we could see 58 more if we had more time. But it's an enormous pleasure to be able to be part of this show.
Thank you. And so if you are out there tonight, it is the 11th of October, Friday. If you're watching on the 11th of October, Friday, you can call us and ask questions about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, or helping medical marijuana patients. Call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. So Casper, you've been very busy the past couple of weeks putting together a whole new media network for iHeartRadio and American Freedom Radio. You want to?
It has. It's been really exciting. More than I expected it to be. It's been a lot of work.
It's multilingual. I know you've got a Spanish edition already in place with Mike Bafari from down in Argentina.
We started broadcasting live this week, kind of like Fox in the sense we're bringing out new program each week, and our broadcasting day is getting longer and longer. And so what we're doing is we're getting a stronger team. We're getting acquainted with the controls. And right now we have Celeb Stoner on with Steve Bloom on Fridays. We got Mike Bafari doing a Spanish version on Tuesdays and Thursdays. A week from today at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, live from Paris, there's going to be a French version of Time for Hemp going. We got 3 nights a week with a Canadian crew who's going to be doing broadcasting each night, and a New Zealand team of people is going to be broadcasting live every Saturday afternoon on the big network. Debbie Goldsberry's coming. It's like every time I turn around, we got another great activist who wants to help raise the voice somewhere in their part of the world about the importance of ending prohibition and making it a point to let medical marijuana be made available to patients. I need to say thank you to my associates, Jay Narden and Sasha, for helping me make this happen. I couldn't have done it without their assistance, and that's true with David and Suzanne are helping with the website. We're launching a brand new website that's going to be reflecting the changes. Right now, when you go to timeforhemp.com, it's more of a promo for my little 1-hour show. But within the next couple of days, it will be evolving into a promo for an entire network of people who are coming together from around the world. We're working very diligently to make this information available in all languages. And yes, this network is growing faster than I anticipated. Another great thing about this network is that we're able to stretch our voices out collectively in love. And I say that because this week, we were going to be launching a new show with the King of Pot 3 times a week, and he was going to be joining me as my co-anchor in the news broadcast. The King of Pot passed away on Tuesday from massive coronary at the age of 42.
No,
and
he was 52.
42.
He was born in 61.
He was 42 years old.
Well, I just saw something online.
He passed away from coronary at a very young age. And
that's still very young. It's younger than me.
and it's going to be sorely missed, to say the least. He's left a big hole in the movement, and in time we will be bringing his old programs to our network so that his voice remains loud and clear. And that's true with our classics. We will be bringing out Jack Hare's old shows and Michelle Rainey and a variety of other people who have left us, so their voice continues to be heard all around the world. So thank you, Paul, for allowing me to do this shameless plug. But yes, we are collectively turning the timeforhemp.com website into the Time for Hemp broadcasting network, and we are letting the whole world know collectively that it really is time for hemp.
You know, this show goes out live on the internet, on Ustream. We have viewers watching all over the world. Some of Casper's viewers watch us and vice versa. So if you're out there, you know someone you think should be watching this live on Friday night at 8 o'clock Pacific time. That's 11 o'clock on the West Coast and about 6 in the morning in Paris. Then tell them to tune into ustream.tv. You can also watch repeats, hundreds of repeats, if you got that much time, on YouTube. Just look up Cannabis Common Sense. We'll have tonight's show on YouTube by tomorrow night. But on Ustream, we're streaming live. And we are taking viewers' phone calls. If you have a question or comment, you can call us, and we've got a caller standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hi. Yeah. I have a question for the doctor. I wanted to know your thoughts about cannabis treating depression and anxiety.
Well, cannabis really is a coat of many colors. It has the capability of treating in many different venues, one of which is in the more psychiatric associated areas. We do find that it is helpful, but you have to be very careful in the use of this with people who are not totally capable of adjudicating their emotions. So can it help? Yes, it can help, but it has to be done with great care. And yes, that's
what we
good.
talked about in our news segment, the hemp news segment. There was a story talking about how cannabis helps positive mental ideas and helps turn negative ones more positively. So that was something we covered in our hemp news segment too.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I haven't used cannabis for many, many years, but I have been, using Lexapro to treat depression, and of course it does have side effects. And, I'm just wondering, should I maybe try medical marijuana, or would that even be
it is not, except in the state of California, one of the conditions that's approved for medical marijuana. However, now marijuana is legal in Washington State, so you certainly can try it across the river in Washington State, but it is not, depression itself is not a qualifying condition in any state except for California at this point in time, unfortunately. Yeah, go right ahead.
I suffer from bipolar, and my family doctor was more adamant that I relieve it from medical marijuana than the chemistry medication that's available to us. He'd been my doctor since I was a child, and he had prescribed medical marijuana to other patients, which is what led him to prescribe it to me, who were dealing with depression from the loss of spouses or chemotherapy, going through that or getting through a hard time in life. And his other point was that with medical marijuana, the side effects were basically the munchies, whereas anything out of a chemistry set, there were so many side effects that he was kind of afraid to prescribe them. Plus, when you are prescribing someone for depression, you have to try a variety of different types of drugs so you find one that does work, and then you begin to find the right dosage. So you become like a guinea pig. Whereas with medical marijuana, the right dosage, you can figure it out by the time you're buzzed and happy, you know you should stop.
Yeah.
That's what I usually do.
Great.
And I'm not clinically depressed, but it makes me happy. But it's the appetite stimulation that's bad for me. All right, well, thanks for your call. That's a very interesting subject, and I believe once marijuana is fully legal and regulated for adult use, that we'll see a lot of these other anti-anxiety drugs and depression drugs and all sorts of mental health issues addressed with cannabis and cannabis derivatives.
I really hope so, because it's a natural alternative to these pharmaceuticals, you know, and it just makes more sense.
I agree. Thanks for your call.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Anything you want to add, Tim?
Not right now, Paul.
Okay. We have a film clip we're going to run right now. This is some interesting breakthroughs have been made in the state of Colorado this fall. Colorado just harvested the first United States hemp crop in over 70 years. So we have a little bit of video from that harvest. Stand by.
For the first time in 55 years, there's a hemp harvest in the United States.
I dreamed of this day for many, many years, and to see this right now gives me chills.
Hemp advocates see opportunity in the crop that is used for fiber to make rope, clothes, keychains, and bracelets. Volunteer harvesters who drove hours to southern Colorado tout it as a biofuel that can be ingested.
I'm a hemp chef. I cook with industrial hemp. I make breads, oatmeals, cookies.
Hemp is a cousin to the better-known marijuana plant. Growing it remains illegal under federal law. But Colorado farmers, bolstered by the feds saying they won't step in after voters legalized marijuana and hemp, harvested 25 fields.
Amendment 64, and that really kind of opened the country's eyes to well, you know, to marijuana, and that opened the door for the legislature for hemp to be able to be, you know, planted.
After farmers were encouraged to grow hemp during World War II, it was last grown in 1958.
It looks kind of piddly, if you will.
LOFLIN and other farmers are starting from scratch. This field is being harvested by hand because of the weeds and leftover wheat from previous crops.
You know, they knew how to grow hemp. You know, we don't know what we're doing, basically.
Over the next 3 years, you're going to see these fields get denser and denser and denser.
It's a hope that hemp advocates are now able to hold in their hands. 10 other states have also passed laws allowing hemp cultivation. Peter Banda, Associated Press, Springfield, Colorado.
Well, that's encouraging. You know, we have a little hemp lamp here ourselves. This is hemp oil and a hemp twine wick, and I call it our Cannabis Energy Flame of Freedom. And this is the whole reason marijuana is really illegal. You know, marijuana, the whole marijuana myth about it being a deadly drug that causes people to go crazy and kill their family and friends, which was how they made marijuana illegal back in the 1930s, as depicted in such movies as Reefer Madness and Marijuana Weed from Hell and other films that were produced under the aegis of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. They created this misinformation, and I believe it was primarily sponsored by what a late great friend of ours, Gatewood Galbraith, called the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches. And so they prohibited hemp so that we would use the petrochemical alternatives. Marijuana has always just been a smokescreen. Drugs are just a smokescreen. It's really about fuel, fiber, money, power, and the continued centralization of economic and political control. So I'll get off my soapbox on that one for just a moment.
Well, no, but it's true. And when you say it, it sounds kind of simple and easy to understand. And then people go, oh, well, maybe that's true. What can we do? But that's the facts, Jack. If we get this turned around, we're going to be creating cottage industries, lots of jobs here at home, amazing products that are going to be competing on the open market in ways that we never dreamed of. And we got, as I've talked about before, 3D printing on the horizon, so we're going to have a need for it.
That's something else that hemp oil can be used for. Is,
so this is a great
plastics. Already, with hemp being prohibited in most countries, hemp oil plastics are cheaper than petrochemical plastics and not toxic and biodegradable compared to petrochemical-based plastics. So that's just the tip of the iceberg for the over 100,000 different products we can make out of hemp oil, fiber.
I have a campaign idea. Let's smoke the clowns out of Washington.
All right.
Let's get them smoked out of Washington and get some real people in there who can make proper decisions on our future of our country. Smoke them out.
Okay. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. We'll be taking your phone calls right up to the top of the hour. About another 30 minutes or so. So Tim, you want to talk about the breadth of different patients and the type of patients you see in this? I know you had practiced as a cardiac surgeon for about 40 years, so you'd see people who needed a heart transplant, or I know in one case we were seeing patients in Spokane, and a fellow said you had taken a bullet out of his heart about 10 years before that. So, but in this case, you're seeing patients that are different from the typical cardiac patient.
No question that to have your hand inside a chest around a beating heart is an extraordinary experience. And I think it was one of these experiences that kind of lit the fire, if you will, for me, and for the future of the use of something like cannabis. And I wonder if I could just say a few words, Paul, about one of the things that rises to the surface,
Please.
Especially when we see people in the clinics. We are seeing many people who are coming in with problems associated with pain. And this is a very important subject that needs to be discussed in the medical field as well as the cannabis field. People who become overusers of narcotics and opiates are frequently seen in our clinics, and it's in large part because of the inappropriate giving of narcotics to patients by physicians. And we see this constantly, and here we have this incredible medication which can be used properly, can be very helpful in getting people off of the use of narcotics and opiates. And this is one area that we work diligently on.
Yeah, I've seen the vast majority of patients that come through with chronic pain issues who have been addicted by their physicians to these things, from OxyContin to morphine to many forms of synthetic narcotics. I would say about 80% of them completely get off of those narcotics by the time they come in for their renewal the next year.
That's cool.
That's accurate.
And maybe 10% have dramatically reduced it, and the other maybe 5%, 5 to 10% have continued it. But cannabis has been used by literally hundreds of thousands of people to help quit their addiction. In fact, you know, we show these medicinal bottles on our TV show all the time, and one of the things that it says on the bottles is it's for the habituates of opiates, chloroform, cocaine, alcoholics with delirium tremens, to help them get off all of those drugs. So it's been acknowledged as an aid in that for many years.
And even nicotine.
Yeah, nicotine.
We've got off of nicotine.
We have another caller. Let's go ahead and take that call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yes.
Hey, welcome.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Oh, yes. I was wondering if you had any information about growers.
What do you mean?
Could, reach somebody.
You mean as a medical patient, you're looking for a grower? Or what do you mean?
I need a person to grow for me.
Okay, and you have a medical permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
It's best to first go to your family and friends, people you know and trust. But I can tell you that for the majority of patients who can't find someone to grow for them, and that's the case for many people who get a medical marijuana permit, a lot of them give up because they can't find a reliable source. The Oregon legislature just passed the best medical dispensary law in the country. And so there are already some dispensaries opening up, especially here in the Portland area. They aren't really officially regulated yet, but they will be regulated over the next year. So the first place to look might be there. You know, I can't recommend any of them specifically. There are a lot of good ones out there. It's up to you, just in trial and error. Are you based here in the Portland area?
Yes.
Yeah, I would recommend trying some of those dispensaries and seeing what kind of deal you can work out. Don't go with the first one. You should shop around and see what various people can offer you. And then try to ask them for references, other patients that they have helped that have been happy with the results. And when you have asked a dozen people that question, then you'll probably find one or two that might be able to help you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You know, all too often we hear from patients who've had bad experiences with growers.
Yeah,
And it's very sad to see the sick and dying taken advantage of like that. But it's a difficult row with the way it's been set up in the past. But since the Oregon legislature just passed the best dispensary law to regulate dispensaries and sales to patients in the country, I think we'll see some positive progress. You know, we have another film clip back at our Hempstock Festival. We had one of my friends and heroes and mentors, Mr. John Trudell, a Native American activist, past president of the American Indian Movement, and longtime poet and songwriter, play a song about industrial hemp, and we're going to run that right now. It's called Wild Seed. We'll be back in just a moment.
Wild seed, life, seeding life, and the earth is our mother, and the land is her flesh, and the water is her milk, and the oil is her blood, and we are her children. In this land we come from, of this earth we're made of, with us as future ancestors, given responsibilities to live. We are the future we bring. If we don't take care of the land, how can the land take care of us? Same with sky and air we breathe. Today is time to remember tomorrow, and the reality of we reap what we sow. The reality of land and life is in the seed. Seed has memory of life. Wild seed memory, keeping alive, up close, face to face with the destroyers and their synthetic seed without memory. Toxic planting poison in earth and minds. Disregarding well-being for maximizing profits, abandoning the children to massive debt, making the price of freedom unaffordable at the expense of the many for the benefit of the few, like a spreading mad human disease, chaosing minds with liars' promises, seeding old fears with new fears, life in the world of the money man. It's time to think our way out of what we believed our way into? How can we show respect to life if we don't use our common sense? Wild seed, life seeding life, and the earth is our mother, and the land is her flesh, and the water is her milk, and the oil is her blood. We are her children.
All right, that is John Trudell and his band Bad Dog as performed at our Hemp Stock Festival back just about a month ago right now. So if you didn't make it, I think next year we will be back at Waterfront Park with our Hemp Stock Festival. And it should be a little bit easier for a lot of people to get out there. The place we've had, it's been very beautiful right at the confluence of the Columbia River and the Willamette River, the two largest rivers here in the western United States. But we hope to go back to where our first two hemp stocks were held at the Portland waterfront. So it looks like we will be doing that next year. So Casper, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I think the doctor here's story of how he came into being involved with the marijuana movement and involved with your clinic is really interesting. Apparently because of his discovery of how medical marijuana is affecting the body, he was able to continue to do the work that he loves so well because of it. I thought that was pretty interesting. Maybe I don't know if the audience knows that. Maybe I'm late to it, but I thought that was pretty interesting. You might want to share that.
It's a reality. Frequently, you can attach yourself to something that moves you beyond the average. And I think being a part of medicine enabled me to do this. First of all, with the thing I loved so much was taking care of human hearts. And then when that time slided away, I could come in and continue to work with humans and their hearts, but in a different way, by advising them about how they can take care of their bodies, how they can avoid taking and eating the wrong things and the wrong medications. And I think I've been able to realize a second coming, if you will.
It's been about a decade now, almost a decade. I think it'll be 10 years since we started working together here in another 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And so I know in that time you have literally helped more than 50,000 patients all across the United States. And they're incredibly grateful, aren't they? They're
very much
so.
It's so rewarding every day to come home after you have the opportunity to see these people and some of the things that you can light in their life.
Indeed. We have another phone call. Let's go ahead and take that call. Welcome to the show, caller.
This is Dr. Philip Levesque.
All right. How are you doing, Dr. Levesque?
Well, I've been watching your program.
Well, good.
Yeah.
And so how are you doing?
A while ago, you had a question from a patient about the use of marijuana for anxiety and for depression.
Yes, depression specifically.
Well, in addition to me being a marijuana doctor, I'm also a professor of pharmacology, and I did the research for anxiety and depression, and marijuana is better than any of the antidepressant drugs, and it's probably better than any of the you don't know what I'm talking about, the Valium-type drugs.
Benzodiazepines, Dr.
Yeah, right.
Orvald told me. So yeah, we've got to thank you for mentioning that. I know you taught pharmacology to physicians at a number of different universities over your teaching career.
About 9 medical schools in the United States, 1 in Puerto Rico, and I was invited by the University of London to train the first doctors in Tanzania. We were there for 2 years.
All right. Remember, you were in Uganda a little bit too.
Well, Tanzania and Uganda and Kenya, yeah.
They're pretty close.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say, Dr. Levesque? And I want to thank you for helping us get everything going. You were our first doctor that helped THCF medical clinics get off the ground.
Well, marijuana is also better than almost all of the opiate drugs. The only exceptions are OxyContin, which kills thousands of people, hydrocodone, which kills lots of people, and Dilaudid, which is, well, about the same, I guess.
Are you still using it for your own pain?
Yes, I am.
And how are you
I know
feeling?
you had a broken hip about a year or so ago, and
That's correct.
I made an oil that was useful for your pain, wasn't it?
That's correct, absolutely.
And how are you feeling now?
Well, it's still with me, but I'm improving inch by inch.
Nice.
It's only been a year now, almost to the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was last year on the 12th of October.
All right. Well, I'm glad you are past that first year. I know we celebrated your 90th birthday here on the show about 6 months ago, and a broken hip is often fatal for people, you know, at that age. So I'm glad you're coming back so well from that.
I wish you hadn't said that, Paul.
Okay. Well, you're doing great, but you know, you were out dancing and cavorting, and I know that oil has been a big help. I know it's helped you sleep through some of those painful nights.
That's true.
And many people don't know it, but it's true. You were lucky enough to treat one of the first ladies of the United States for depression, Mary Todd Lincoln.
Well,
he's making a joke there.
I wasn't the doctor for Mrs. Lincoln. That was somebody else.
All right.
However,
she
I
had
did
some problems.
invent dirt, though.
All right. Well,
Nice talking to you. Goodbye now.
You too. Thanks for calling. But he brought up the same thing, that we see so many chronic pain patients that have been addicted to drugs that are able to use cannabis to get off of those drugs. That's true. We have a couple phone calls standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello, Paul.
Howdy.
Hi, Paul. Dr. Orville. Dr. Orville, I wanted to say thanks to you. I have a 22-year-old daughter who asked me when she was 14 if she could get her college. She has multiple autoimmune diseases, autoimmune hepatitis, on and on. And you said there, as soon as this president gets out of office, we can do stem cell research again, and they can cure you. Well, cannabis cured her a lot. She doesn't use any of the prednisone or any of that medication. Like I said, she's 22 years old, and she's doing great. And I wanted to thank you for that.
That's his way of saying you're welcome.
Thank you very much. And Paul, question I have. Okay, in Colorado and Washington, cannabis is legal. Why can't you go and lease 100 acres, Paul, and do your cannabis thing? I don't understand why.
Well,
you
the
can't
law
plant
in
tomatoes.
Washington and in Colorado specifically only allows state residents to take advantage of that. And so I'd rather create a better law here in Oregon, and one that's open to the free market, where we don't have exorbitant taxes that make cannabis prices artificially inflated. I'd rather see cannabis be cheap and plentiful, especially for medical patients. And when we do that, we can restore hemp to its rightful place for fuel, fiber, and food. And so I'm working, and in fact, we have 2 petitions out there right now. One, a constitutional amendment, which would amend Oregon's constitution with 2 sentences that say people can possess, use, and grow cannabis and cannabis derivatives, and that the state can regulate it for public safety. That's one of it. The other one is a revision of Measure 80. You know, last year we got 47% of the votes statewide on Measure 80. If we had gotten another 110,000 votes, we would be saying Colorado, Washington, and Oregon. But we fell a little short there. Here in Portland, we got 63% of the vote in the city of Portland and 61% in Multnomah County. So recent polling by other organizations have shown that we've seen a 17-point jump, where now likely registered Oregon voters last May said that they would support legalizing marijuana by 63%. Now that we can drive across the river and be legal in Washington, Oregon voters are ready to jump on the bandwagon. As we said at the top of the show, even Texas voters are in favor of legalizing marijuana.
I was reading something about that today.
Yeah.
Well, you know, politicians love money, and they see the money going out of our state and to another state. And the quickest way to get the attention of a politician is to talk about how they can get more money in their pocket. And suddenly, oh my God, they're all ears. They love us now. They want us to be their strongest backers. They want us to go out and campaign for them, and they're going to embrace the movement.
Please.
So we have volunteer petitions that are available at our office there at 2712 Northeast Sandy Boulevard. If you're here in the Portland area, you can call us at 503-235-4606. If you're outside of Portland, you can call toll-free at 877-630-9333 and help us end marijuana prohibition in Oregon. We're circulating those 2 petitions. We've got a number of paid petitioners that are circulating those right now. They're petition number 21 and 22. And so please get involved in our effort to restore hemp to its rightful place in our economy. I think most people who believe in the benefits of cannabis knew that our bill in Oregon was infinitely, well, somewhat better than the ones that did pass in Washington and Colorado. The major difference was the one in Colorado had $3.5 million in funding. The one in Washington had $6.5 million in funding. And ours in Oregon only had about $500,000 in funding, all of that from patients who came through our clinic. So we have some other donors and backers now, and so please get involved and get some of our petitions and help us put this thing back on the ballot right away.
Well, the one benefit is we get to see what Colorado and Oregon's going through, so we don't have to deal with that so much now. They get the system worked out. When it happens here, it'll be maybe easier to implement.
Maybe so. All right.
You used to be able to grow it.
Yeah, and our initiative will allow people to grow their own without a license fee or registration. Up in Washington, they won't allow you to grow any at all. So, yeah, you can't grow your own according to the Washington law. You can only possess up to an ounce. Once you go over an ounce, you become a criminal. And so, and if you have more than 40 grams in Washington, you're a felon, unless you have a medical permit. If you have a medical permit, then you can grow 15 plants and have 24 ounces.
Yeah, you probably know of my perils in Washington. But anyway,
Yeah.
Paul, thanks for everything and the reiteration of all that. I
You're very
appreciate
good.
your information from ever.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Have a
calling.
good day.
Glad we could help your daughter and you. And so thanks for watching. We have a film clip from this video, The Strain Hunters. There is a seed provider and coffee shop in Amsterdam called The Greenhouse, and Arja Roskin is the owner of it. I got to meet him when I went back and spoke at the Expo Grow in San Sebastian, Spain, here about 3 weeks ago. So we're going to try to play a little clip here from Strain Hunters, and we'll be right back.
We decided to camp on 2,700, very close to where Franco have lived for a very long time, in his cave.
He told me about the cave many times, but when you see it in person, then it's really incredible. You see this place, the view alone is out of this planet. and you think so peaceful, so magical, with plants around, fields around, a small community of mountain people which are very welcoming and very friendly.
When I arrived here, it was open. Then the locals, they told me there was a house there broken. They told me you take stones and wood and you fit it. And they helped me, they fit it. When did you came here? 96.
96.
96. How many years did you live here? 10 years.
Yo, 10 years in the cave?
Yeah. First time I was in this area, it was in 91. Then I was...
All right, that was just a little clip from Strain Hunters. They were visiting in India. We have several videos that they have given us. There's this one, let's see, their India exploits. We have another expedition to Trinidad and Tobago. We'll be playing clips from that in the weeks to come. They also went to Morocco. So we have their Morocco expedition. And last but not least, they also gave me the Spanish expedition. Also, they gave me this little package, which I noticed contained 10 marijuana seeds. It says it sells for 32 euros. And it has some other clips in there. I managed to bring this through customs without any problem, fortunately, but it's now part of our museum. So then, right down over here, we have a number of bottles. This is, as you can see, Indian cannabis, a fluid extract of Indian cannabis from Wyeth and Brothers. Right next to it, it is a cannabis compound called Kill a Cough. It's a really neat bottle. It's if you like bottles, and I do. This one is a chloroform cannabis mixture, and it's called Kill a Cough as a cough medicine. Next to it, we have this. It also came in this. It's also Kirkcall's cough medicine. It has a little package here with instructions in Swedish, Bohemian, Spanish, Italian, French, and several other languages. So this is also cannabis and chloroform. Basically, that just knock you out, right, doctor? You take cannabis and chloroform, boom, you're knocked out. You won't be coughing. Then we have this one from Eli Lilly, a 1-pint bottle of fluid extract number 96 cannabis. Eli Lilly had about 8 different cannabis preparations, several of them pure, some of them were fluid extract, powdered extract of hemp, which was basically hashish. Then we have this little package of hemp oil. We've taken it and lit this lamp to demonstrate the energy potential of cannabis, and then of course our hemp twine. So we're down to just a few minutes left.
Did they have a coughing epidemic in the 1900s?
They had a lot of things that caused coughing.
All these cough syrups.
I just have this collection of all these medicine bottles, and these are just happen to be the ones I grabbed.
That's cool.
You know, we are down to just less than 3 minutes left. Would you like to say anything in closing, Casper?
Please go to the Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network at timeforhemp.com. Globally, all around the world, we are raising the voice to let the whole world know how we really do believe it is time for hemp.
What about you, Dr. Orvald? Is there anything you'd like to say to our audience in closing?
I would just like to thank the audience here and over the television for joining us at the show today. Every time you come to this show, you come away with new and more appropriate information, and it's the only place that you can do this.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Orvald. It's been an honor to be working with you, and we'll continue that and open up some more states here in the near future. We're plotting to expand our reach into additional medical marijuana states, and we're in the process of doing that. But I want to thank you, viewers, for watching, and we're going to go out on another fantastic song with Mr. John Cornett. Thanks for playing again for us, John.
You're welcome. Thank
you, folks, for watching. Tune in next week, and remember to help us restore hemp.
Thank you very much, guys. powerful.